Wide receivers, who are we starting?
Brian Thomas Jr., only because Trevor Lawrence is not going to play this week. He's unlikely to play. And he didn't have a good game last week. But again, you've got 4 teams on a bye. And even with Mac Jones under center, this is still a good matchup against the Vikings. No defense in the league has allowed more fantasy points per game to wide receivers, and perimeter receivers have averaged the second most points against them. And Lindsay mentioned earlier, negative game script. They may have to throw the football. So I'm still going to play Brian Thomas Jr. And Jaylen Waddle, he's been awful. He had the craziest stat line last week. He had negative 4 yards and a touchdown. He's only the 3rd wide receiver in the history of the NFL to have negative receiving yards and still score a touchdown. And he's been bad almost all year long. But again, 4 teams on a bye, and the Rams defense has allowed the 4th most points per game to the perimeter. Hopefully, Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill will emerge from their statistical funks and give us some points in a game with a high total.
How are we sitting?
Marvin Harrison Jr., first off, single digits in 4 of his last 5 games, had a 3.4 point stinker last week. Now he's got the Jets, and their defense has allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers and the 4th fewest to the perimeter. And then Michael Pittman Jr. Now, we thought that when Flacco came back, this is good for Pittman. I think Josh Downs is certainly now the better fantasy option in Indianapolis in terms of the wide receiver. But look at Pittman's numbers. Single digits in 3 straight games. He scored fewer than 3 points in each of his last 2. And now he's got Buffalo. They've allowed 6 touchdowns to enemy wide receivers this year. And perimeter receivers, 5th fewest points on average when facing the Bills. So this is not a good spot.